Every human is born with a glitch in their operating system. We possess an intense biological drive to survive and replicate, but our advanced intelligence means we are painfully aware that our survival is temporary. We know we are going to die. Existential psychologists like Irvin Yalom define this clash between the desire to live and the certainty of death as an ultimate concern. It creates a baseline frequency of psychological dread that hums constantly in the background of our minds. Because we cannot escape this built-in expiration date, our awareness of it acts as an invisible engine. It silently drives our deepest and most persistent stress. To cope with this overwhelming fear, the brain tries to hide. In behavioral science, this is called terror management theory. It states that we build elaborate psychological shields to block out the reality of our mortality. You see these shields constantly in everyday life. We obsess over historical legacy, hoping our names outlast our bodies. We cling tightly to cultural dogmas that promise us permanence, and exhaust ourselves with extreme perfectionism, trying to build a bulletproof existence. These biological defenses fail. Clinging to the illusion that we can last forever keeps the brain in a state of high alert. It triggers primary neuroses, a constant internal friction that leaves us feeling disconnected. We assume that ignoring death keeps us safe, yet the exact opposite is true. Building mental walls against our mortality is the specific mechanism amplifying our chronic anxiety. In 11th century Persia, Omar Khayyam treated existence as an engineering problem. As a mathematician and physicist who designed the high-precision Jalali calendar, he applied data-driven rigor to human mortality, stripping away the era's theological filters. He systematically dismantled the cultural illusions of his time. While society obsessed over the legacies of ancient kings, Khayyam pointed out that their mighty castles were now crumbling ruins where wild animals slept. He exposed the mathematical impossibility of outlasting time. Instead of offering spiritual metaphors to soothe the mind, he presented an empirical view of death. He framed human mortality as a basic, inescapable biological fact, the necessary recycling of our atoms back into the physical environment. In his writings, he illustrates human bodies fully dissolving into cosmic dust. He notes that the dirt used to shape a simple clay jug was once the physical flesh of a living person. Our biology recycles back into the elements. Looking directly at this physical dissolution forces the brain's defense mechanisms to collapse. By removing the ego from the equation and viewing the self as a changing state of matter, we stop interpreting death as a threat to our identity. This shift is the required first step to disarming the fear. Acknowledging that the cosmos is mathematically indifferent to our survival carries a risk. If our existence is temporary, why shouldn't we fall into passive despair? The answer matches a modern psychiatric framework called logotherapy, developed by Viktor Frankl. Frankl proved that humans must actively construct their own meaning. We do this by anchoring our minds to immediate sensory experiences, like observing nature or forming connections. Accepting physical impermanence triggers decentering. The brain physically shuts down the limbic system, stopping defensive fear. This top-in stress triggers the Zimbardo time perspective, forcing the mind out of past regrets and future dread, locking focus into a balanced present. Khayyam arrived at this exact mathematical conclusion centuries earlier. He argued that the absolute impermanence of our lives is precisely the variable that pushes the value of the current moment toward infinity. Surrendering the demand for eternity directly rewires our neural pathways. By dropping our defenses, we free up massive amounts of cognitive resources to actually experience the world right now. This philosophical shift translates into hard medical data. Recent clinical trials recorded in the PubMed database have tested these concepts on patients facing severe psychological distress. In trials involving patients with clinical depression, structured logotherapy accounted for 74% of the reduction in depression scores. For generalized anxiety disorder, meaning construction was the strongest negative predictor of death anxiety. This biological stabilization buffers the cardiovascular and endocrine systems against long-term stress. Clinical measurements over 3 years show that this cognitive shift functions as a verifiable medical intervention. It effectively stabilizes the body's physiological response to stress. We carry a deep instinctual fear that admitting our temporary nature will destroy us, but the evidence proves that fighting the natural flow of time is exactly what breaks our minds and bodies. Khayyam's theorem holds up under modern scientific scrutiny. By embracing natural change and accepting our status as temporary arrangements of cosmic dust, we neutralize our deepest existential terrors. The mathematical certainty of death serves as a psychological antidote. It ends the internal war against natural change, providing the biological foundation